So this is an intro to the video I shot earlier where you only got from here down because this was the first video that I made and technical difficulties. Thought I had a great shot, everything in frame, except I didn't. So for the rest of the video, you're going to see the food prep, but you won't see anything but from here down on me. But for the second half, where we finish up, you'll have this frame. Whether you wanted it or not, you'll get to see all of me. Continuing on. Hi, so this is the first episode of At Grano's Table. And some of you may have seen the teaser or the short that I posted earlier today that Grano, or Norma Jean's son, was my godmother. And we all called her Grano, all of the grandchildren, godchildren, all of us. She was special. That's an overused word, for sure, very cliche. But she was. And today is February the 11th, 2025. And today was the day I chose to launch this cooking channel. My friends, family, husband, everybody has been after me to do this because I love to cook, love to bake. And they've been after me to do it for a very long time. So finally pulling the trigger on doing this. But I chose today, February 11th, because 8 years ago today was the day that we lost Grano. And thought this would be appropriate. So today we are going to do something extremely simple. One of her recipes, sitting here, usually hangs on my wall. I'm not really sure you can see it. This is a tea towel that has printed a recipe on it. That was taken from her notepad from the desk of Norma Ogle, that she wrote down a recipe for a tuna ball. Very simple recipe, could not be easier. So we're going to do that for you today. Got ingredients laid out, and we'll get started. So, 1 7-ounce can of tuna. Hey, guess what? 7-ounce can of tuna is now 5 ounces of tuna. Shrinkflation, I suppose. So we're going to dump this out. Probably really need a fork to do this, but I've already drained this well. Those are the instructions. Drain well. So I've already done that. Taken the lid off of this can of tuna. We're just going to dump that in and mix it up pretty well, kind of chunk it up. And I'm beginning to wonder, and I thought about this before I get started, do I need my electric hand mixer for this? And I might. So if I do, I'm going to grab that out. But I'm going to try this way first. So we're going to chunk the tuna fish up in the bowl and see how this goes. I'm using, this is white albacore tuna, though I will say it's a store brand. Is it all white? Not exactly, but it's not really that big of a deal. The next thing you want is a package, softened package, 8 ounces cream cheese. Pretty simple. I'm not going to scrape off the package because who cares? So this is softened, and it should be fairly soft. It's been out for hours this morning. But again, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, number one, might not be the best utensil to do this. And two, I really might want my electric hand mixer because I'm thinking that if I grab that, it's probably going to be a whole lot easier to mix this up. Hold that thought. Magic. The old trusty KitchenAid hand mixer that isn't that old, but I swear has seen better days. Pull out a spoon rest. This was Grano's spoon rest. I have 2 of these. There's some sort of butterfly and some flowers in there. I don't know how long she had those, but they were in her kitchen for as long as I can remember. And I am late 40s. We'll put it that way. So let's see if we can't do this without making a mess, but I do think this is going to be easier. We're going to do this on low because I don't want to sling this all over the kitchen. You might see a chihuahua behind me, possibly. We have 2 little chihuahuas, and can't be in this kitchen without one of them. His name is Shadow, for a very good reason, because he is always underfoot when there's food going on in here. So this is doing pretty well, but we need to turn it up a little bit, and we're going to let that sling right off of those beaters because it's a little mixed in, and we're going to make a mess. I can already see this is going to sling everywhere. but it's the best way to get it off. And there we go. That was definitely the way to do that. Normally I'd be licking those because it'd be something yummy and sweet, but I don't think I'm going to lick the beaters with tuna fish and cream cheese right yet. That seems a little strange to me. Alright, so that's much better. So the next thing that she says to do in her recipe is, that's not what I want, is to take a half a cup of, what does she say? No, she does say, we're going to follow her recipe. She does say the chopped nuts. So for chopped nuts, she wants a cup. This is roughly a cup. I chose pecans. We live on 7 acres, somewhat rural southwest Georgia. And we are fortunate enough to have pecan trees. So last fall, my husband went around picking up pecans, and this is what we have left. Not really, there's a jar sitting back here of just a few left. But anyway, so I chopped up the shelled pecans from our yard. They are super fresh. So we're going to use what we had on hand from our own yard. Now, I don't know that Grano ever went out into the yard to pick up pecans to make this recipe. Maybe she did. I highly doubt it. She'd probably tell you that she had it done. That was always something she would do. She would tell you that she would either do it or have it done. Most of the time, she had it done. So we'll throw our pecans in. That actually makes me think of a very funny story. She and my husband Jimmy both love plants. All about growing stuff in the dirt. Green things. And one time she called, I don't know, probably a dozen or so years ago, and said, "Do you think Jimmy would mind coming over here and digging me just a couple of little holes just to put something in?" I said, "Sure, no problem. We'll come over and do that." And so we did. And about probably 6 hours and 15 holes later, Jimmy looked up with a shovel in his hand, about dog dead tired, and I thought he was going to kill me. And so that's the day he learned that it's never just a couple of holes. So, you know, as I said, Grandma always had it done. She rarely ever had to do it herself. Anyway, so let's mix the chopped nuts in. I think we're doing pretty well there. Those are pretty well mixed. So the next thing was a half a cup of finely diced onions. Now, I'm using a red onion. I don't know why they call these red onions. This is clearly purple. I always call them purple onions. She didn't say what. She just says half a cup of onions, finely chopped. So I guess you can use what you want. I'm using this because it's what I had on hand. Had about a half of one in the refrigerator. Jimmy loves a purple onion, and so we always generally have one of these. There was about a half of one in there. I didn't even use that whole half at that point. Still some in there to do this. So that's about a half cup of finely diced purple onion. I think it'll be a nice color rather than just a yellow onion or a white onion. Wouldn't really, you know, this is kind of a white bowl full of mush at the moment, and so I kind of thought, well, let's put some color in it. So we've got the onions and the pecans and the tuna fish and the cream cheese, and we're kind of mixing that in pretty well. I really should put the mixer back in this, but I really do think by now the spatula is doing a pretty good job. It's my flamingo spatula that my mother-in-law Esther gave us. She knows I like flamingos, and my stepmother is always giving us flamingo stuff. And so now she says we need 5 dashes of Tabasco. I do not have regular Tabasco, I don't think. Jimmy loves hot sauce, but he tends to buy weird stuff. I'm pretty sure I've got green, though. Hold that thought. Oh. You know what I got even better? Even better than Tabasco, I think. I got Frank's. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like Frank's better anyway. I don't think Grano would mind. I don't think it's going to make much difference if we change the hot sauce up just a little bit. I like Frank's because it's more vinegary. And you know what? The vinegar goes with the fish. And I think that'll be delicious. Plus, it'll give us a little better color too. I like colored in my food, especially something like this. This is kind of an appetizer type thing. What I would think of as an atomic era, mid-century, 50s, 60s. You're going to serve it a card game, a bridge club, or as my family has always done, they played rook. I never learned how to play rook. My family for years held rook tournaments once or twice a year. I don't know how I never learned to play with all of that, but I never did. But anyway, this is the kind of thing you would serve at that kind of event, because this is eventually going to become a ball, and it's going to go in the refrigerator for a little bit. And when it comes out, I'm going to roll it in some parsley flakes, and then you serve it with a cracker, or I guess you could dip a veggie in it, like a celery stalk or carrots or something like that. But she says to serve it with what I think is hysterical, a mild cracker. We'll get to that part a little later. It's got to sit in the fridge for a bit and firm up before we eventually roll it in some parsley flakes. But I think we're good to mix up. I think this part is done. I told you this was easy. She says salt to taste. I'm not putting salt in canned tuna fish. To me, there's already enough salt in it, and I'm old enough that I already take enough blood pressure medication that I don't need any extra salt for anything. So what we're going to do, she says to roll it into parsley flakes, but we have to roll it into a ball first. I think we're kind of ball-like, but I will take my ring off, and we will do exactly what she says. We always did exactly what Grano said, because if we didn't, we faced a wrath. She was a tiny little woman, short-wise. For a lot of her life, she was this... God, she'll kill me for this. Please don't haunt me. She was about as wide as she was tall until she got towards the end of her life. And then she lost a lot of weight, and she was a little thing. But she's still mean as hell when she wanted to be. Now that she would laugh at. She would laugh, but she'd pretend to be mad about that. Anyway, some of my family who will see this will either be mad at me or they'll laugh too. But they know I'm telling the truth. They know that ain't a lie. Anyhow, so this is kind of sticky, but we're going to make this a ball as best we can. I'm not using both hands. I don't want both hands dirty. But I'm going to ball this up so it'll firm up this way. And then I am going to wash my hands, cover this in saran wrap, put it in the fridge, and she says to chill. That's all she says, chill. So I'm going to let it chill. I'll probably do that for a couple hours. I'll come back in a bit. I feel like it's sufficiently chilled probably this afternoon. We'll roll this in some parsley. We'll give it a taste. And we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so this is the last step in what we were doing earlier today, making Grano's Tuna Ball. And it's been sitting in the fridge under some saran wrap. And I sort of double wrapped this. And it should be nice and chilled. And so the last step we have to do is roll this in some parsley flakes. Now, the recipe said best fresh parsley, but it does say roll in parsley flakes. Best is fresh parsley, but I have parsley flakes. I don't have fresh parsley. I'm going to go ahead and bet that Grano probably used parsley flakes herself before I get yicky there. We're going to go ahead and let's just take the whole lid off of this, because sprinkling it's probably going to be weird or not really going to work too well. So let's just sprinkle some parsley flakes on a cutting board. This is kind of the best way I could think to do it. Just trying to figure out how you roll this in parsley flakes. Let's see if that's enough. I'm going to spread this out on the cutting board, like maybe a lot, because rolling this tuna ball in parsley flakes, I don't know, this is going to be weird. I've made a cheese ball before, and I've rolled those in like chopped nuts. It's kind of the same thing, but that's a whole lot easier than I think this is going to be. But we're about to find out. One thing I do want is my handy dandy dough scraper, because I think it's going to be easier to get this out of the bowl this way. It was. This is nice and firm. I'm going to ball shape it a little bit. Kind of had a flat bottom on it. So let's shape this into a little more of a ball. Doesn't have to be perfect, nothing is. Life is not perfect. Life is messy. This is messy. So that's actually not bad. It chilled up nicely, it's firm. So maybe this won't be so weird or difficult. I hope I have enough parsley flakes. I think I do. So I'm gonna roll this around in some parsley flakes. I guess this is for color, for presentation, and to make it look less beige. Beige food is weird. Not a big fan of just plain beige food. Hey, this is working out pretty well. She might have been onto something here. I actually think that is going to be enough. I might sprinkle the top a little more before I'm done. But I'm going to put this here. I do think I'm going to sprinkle the top with some more parsley flakes. But before I do that, I'm going to shape that a little bit. I'm going to rinse my hands off. Hold that thought. Always important to wash your hands. Need some more soap. Rinse my hands off. Alright, so let's do a little more sprinkling of parsley flakes because I do want a little more on top. I think it needs a little more even coverage, and I like that better. That's probably plenty. So we're going to transfer this. I will use my dough scraper bowler thingy. And I was trying to decide, do I use a fancy cut glass plate like you might serve this on, or do I use one of Grano's plates? I think we use one of her plates. These are my everyday plates now. They're hers. I've eaten about 1 million meals, and that is not an exaggeration, off of these plates. I have a set of plates that she used that I know came from a yard sale. Everything in the world came from a yard sale with Grano. The queen of yard sales. She and her friend Dot. Dot is still with us. 90 years old. And still with us. Doing great. But she and Dot were the queens of the yard sale. They used to go to yard sales and buy things to put in their own yard sale. They would have huge yard sales, but I know that's where these plates came from. And so I thought it might be appropriate to use her plate to serve this on. And so she says, again, I think this is hysterical, serve with a mild cracker. Well, I don't think we get any more mild than a Ritz. We're in the South. We tend to love Ritz crackers in the South. I make a dish called Ritz chicken that Grano's oldest daughter, Julie, makes. And I use Julie's recipe for that. So it's just crushed Ritz. We coat chicken breast in crushed Ritz and bake it off. I put mine in the air fryer. I think it's good. So there you got it. The tuna ball, rolled in parsley flakes, served on a mild cracker. Now, I'm the only person in this house that eats tuna fish. Jimmy will eat fish, but only certain kinds, not very much seafood. He likes tilapia. He likes shrimp. He likes fish sticks, if you can call that fish. So we might as well go ahead and cut into this. Here, we'll turn that to the side. It looks delicious. So we're going to spread that on a mild Ritz cracker. And we'll see what this tastes like. It smells delicious. It's not very fishy, it's tuna fish. And we're not going to be dainty about it either. That one's for you. And it's wonderful. And I wish you were here to eat this with me today. But I kind of feel like you are. So, that's really good. Those pecans are good. The onions are good. Fish, cream cheese. This is really delicious. You know, I will say it could probably use a little more of the hot sauce. It's there, but I like a little more spice than this. I probably would have added a few more dashes to it, but this is really good. Make this. Honor her. That's what we plan to do here. And join us again at Grano's table.